HQN Books and HarlequinAudio present Low Country Christmas by Tobin Mcclain, performed by Tanya Eby. Chapter 1. On a mid-November evening, Cash O'Dwyer locked the door of his luxury condo and trotted down the steps, holding his phone to his ear to listen to the third message from his CFO in Atlanta.
"Urgent that you return this—"
"Watch it!" The feminine voice was accompanied by a baby's cry. Cash stopped with one foot halfway down to the next step and squinted at the woman, who'd pressed herself flat against the railing on the landing, baby cradled protectively in her arms. He lifted a hand, palm out.
Sorry, ma'am. Wasn't watching where I was going."
He continued past them as he listened to the rest of his message, and then, as he processed what he'd seen, he clicked off his phone and turned back, shifting his focus from Atlanta and business deals to a very pretty young mother practically on his doorstep here in Safe Haven, South Carolina. The woman was still on the landing, gently joggling the baby, whose cries were already dying out.
"Can I help you?"
As he spoke, he checked the time on his phone. His brothers and their families would be waiting for him, the nieces and nephews getting more and more impatient, the wives ready to strangle him. His pockets full of candy and little toys wouldn't make up for a night of fussy kids. He'd told them to go ahead without him, that he'd meet them at the holiday tree lighting ceremony in the park, but his sisters-in-law had insisted that they all have dessert together first, at the Southern Comfort Cafe. His sisters-in-law were big on tradition, something he and his brothers were pretty severely lacking. 3 messages flashed onto his lock screen: his sales manager, his brother Liam, and his brother Sean's wife, Anna. Above him on the landing, the woman hadn't moved, hadn't spoken. The baby, who looked to be a girl and about a year old, settled against her shoulder with a gurgly sigh.
"Can I help you?"
he asked again. These stairs led to 2 condos, his own and that of an older businesswoman.
"Are you looking for Hillary?"
"No." She stared into his eyes, and hers were strangely familiar. "We're looking for you." A spark of anxiety climbed up his spine. He didn't like it.
"Is it an emergency? What's your connection to me?"
Her eyebrow lifted just enough that he realized he sounded abrupt, which was too bad, but that was how he was. Driven, impatient, materialistic. Not as bad as his father had been. At least Cash wasn't violent about it. But still, the old man must have known what he was doing, giving him the name Cash. It was why he didn't have a wife and kids, the way his brothers did. "It's a long story," she said. There was anxiety in her voice. "Is there somewhere we could talk?" He glanced at his phone again, the time ticking away.
"Not right now, no."
He tried to keep the irritation out of his tone. There were a lot of people in the world, especially in the South, for whom time had a different meaning than it did for him. People who didn't mind having drop-in guests because their schedules were flexible or non-existent. Cash O'Dwyer wasn't one of those people. "Does the name Tiffany Gibson ring a bell?"
"Tiffany? Yeah."
Involuntarily, he smiled. He'd shared a very lovely week with Tiffany, when she'd vacationed in a beach resort adjoining Safe Haven at the same time he'd been spending a rare week in his hometown.
"I do remember Tiff," he said.
"She's my sister. I'm Holly Gibson." She was watching him steadily, like that was going to mean something to him. But he and Tiffany hadn't spent their time together talking about their families. They hadn't talked much, period. He didn't think Tiffany had even mentioned she had a sister. That must be why this woman's big gray eyes had looked so familiar. He didn't have time to piece together why Tiff's sister had shown up on his doorstep with a baby, but she probably had a sob story and needed money. That didn't even faze him anymore. As his bank account had expanded, so had the number of people who wanted to be his best friend. Couldn't blame him for trying. But this one had a baby, which got to him. "Look," he said impulsively, starting down the stairs and gesturing for her to follow.
"I'm late for this tree lighting thing. It's a tradition, and there are kids involved. Kids I can't disappoint. If you'd like to ride along, we can talk in the car, or—"
He frowned at the baby.
"You can follow in your own car, if you'd be more comfortable."
"I came in an Uber," she said, as she reached the bottom of the stairs, then half knelt and picked up a car seat she must have left there. "I can ride along with you." She'd come in an Uber? That meant she didn't have a car. Definitely a sob story.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?